Okay, guys, this is going to be the biblical year, part 2, 3, or 4. We've talked about it a little bit by now, but specifically, I want to get into. So, my last video talking about the mark of Cain / Knights of Malta. We talked about these, the riddle of the Sphinx as the start of the spiritual start of the year. Again, Christian, Muslim, Jew. This is the real one. Now, it has a value of, again, it's a clock face, right? Now, I want to get into the 7 churches here in Revelation and the persecution 10 days. Tested 10 days. Now, again, you start off here. This is month 12 or 13, depending if the year. Guys, this is also the Day of Atonement. Think about this. You're going through here. This day, this is 1. If it's inclusive counting, this is 1, 2. So that 2 starts with a value of 10 to 4 or 7, depending. We talked about that. The order of the cherubs vary just slightly. If you're going the ways of the seasons, then it would be 10, 7. So, okay, so that has a value of 10. Okay, so you start out here. This is the garland of the 12 stars on the woman's head with the moon on her feet, right? Again, moon on her feet, right? So, lighten at night. So you're going 12 or 13, 10, and that's this. These are the 10 sections. Remember guys, again, Ezekiel 28, Lucifer's missing that 3rd row. And again, this is 9 or 10, depending on the count of pontifex. These are these 10 sections of the Shago, or this false Jacob's ladder, or the stone of Scone, right? The stone of destiny was okay, this is another way of saying the stone of Scone, the stone of destiny, as they say, Jacob's pillow. This is what it is. It's the 11 sections. With that first one doubled over, makes 10, and that covers, this is the shag here, this is that false Luciferian, Sasquatch, Bigfoot, goat hair covering Luciferian light that they walk in, because they climb up on top. They walk into it, and so the 50 class, that's why do you think there's 50 stars on the American flag? That's what this is, that dirty bird, it's that false spirit outpouring, right? So again, this is 1, 2, so 1, 2, now you have a value of 10, these 10 days. So this is church 1. I've talked about this a million times. This 1, church 1, 2, church 3, church 4, church 5. And then you can do it again with inclusive counting, and then you could say 6 and 7, then 6 and 7, okay? I watch my other videos, you get what I mean, because this is church. Again, it's going 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, you've seen it a million times, right? If you've seen my other videos. So, again, that 10 days of tribulation are these 10 sections, okay? So if you go through this is, you could call it the liturgical, I can't think of the word, you know what I'm talking about, the sacred calendar, the Catholic calendar, or just the calendar. The Jews have it too, obviously, right? If you go through the calendar, you'll find, again, that if it's got, from my study, 13 is the atonement year, and I mean that kind of spiritually / symbolically, because you start at 13 and you're minusing 3 each quarter term, right? Because it's the 3 months in a year, right? So if you start out with 13, it's 10, 7, 4, 1. That 1 is at one-ment, guys. That's the Day of Atonement. So you can start to see Day of Atonement is right here. That's between Leo and Virgo, guys. That's where the spiritual year starts. After the day of at one-ment, because, guys, the corona, whether it's the real one, like when I mean corona, I mean Day of Atonement is, if you look up in Exodus, look up what's going on with these, in fact, I can show you right now. Look what's going on actually, it's King James, not New King James. There is a crown around the table of showbread. Okay, so this is the at-one-ment when the 12 tribes marry Yeshua, the Son of Man. That is the Day of Atonement. That happens in the fall, typically October, mid-October, depends on your reckoning, okay? So now you can start to see as the calendar counts down from 12, 10, 7, 4, 1, that's the Day of Atonement or Day of At-One-ment. That's the marriage. That is the virgins marrying the Son of Man. That you see the concept now, right, guys? I also wanted to tackle this notion of the 1260 or 3.5 years in Revelation. Guys, that is the basis. If you look at the education system in the world, specifically America, but you could easily say the world, it's very Masonic, but the Masons are covering, or the Jesuits, or copying it from this 1260. Remember, the Apostle Paul went off to the desert wilderness and studied the Bible for like 3.5 years, guys. It's not a new concept. So you get the 4-year bachelor degree or the 4-year program from this it's just another way of saying 3.5. Because why do you think when you graduate, you get the compass on your head? Okay, that's what it's the compass. Now the black goes to the Saturn cult because if you take the black and elongate it, it turns into a cube. It's a hex, looks like see how that looks like a cube from the angle? That's on top of the North Pole Saturn. But anyway, that's a whole nother story. But my point is that's where this concept originates from. You get the 4-pointed compass on your head. That's the crown. Okay? The compass is very much so. Think about this, guys. I was just talking about remember when I was talking about the horse colors? Think about this. Sides of the north, the green horse. Remember, that's the 4th horse. Think about the northern lights, guys. The green northern lights. That's the table of showbread. That's the green. That's the food. That's the grass. Right there, right? Okay, so that's the sides of the north. That's that green north horse. Okay, so, of course, if you're a flat earther like I am, you start to understand this stuff from a much more, you can call it medieval cosmology if you want, but the medieval cosmology is much closer to the reality than, much closer than what we're currently taught. I was thinking about this, so remember, this is the Pleiades, the 7 churches. You'll see my other videos of this. Think about this too, the Big Dipper. It's got the 7 stars, and it's the same pattern, right? And the Big Dipper is the bear, which in the book of Amos, the Big Dipper is God the Father, the Little Dipper is God the Son. In between the Big Dipper and the Little Dipper is the Draco constellation. That's the dragon. And that circles as the zodiacs. So you have the Big Dipper right here, the Little Dipper here, and the Draco in between. As the zodiacs turn throughout the year, that's the story. That's what's going on. This is the cycle of judgment. And then you get to the fall, October, that's the Day of Atonement. So if you get into like the Millerite movement, remember they said in 1843, 1844 was the second coming was going to happen when? October of 1843 or 1844. It's this concept. From my timeline, you can see it right here. I've got it to the fall. It's going to be the fall of 2024. That's just the way my timeline is. So again, it's going to be ending right here at that Day of Atonement. Okay? So you can see my other videos. I talked about my timeline plenty, but basically the coronation of the harlot started summer of 2019, 3.5 years later. Then we get to fall of 2023. Basically, you could think of that as 7 or 10. There's that 3-month window because it's seasonal. See that, 7 or 10? Depends how you look at it. It's inclusive counting, right? And then basically, think about where we are. We just had the coronation of King Charles. I'll have to talk about that. I was just thinking about they remember they had this sword of the jeweled sword that was given to him and then bought back by the church for 100 shillings. What is that saying? They're saying they're giving him power of the sword, the jeweled sword. The Shekinah glory is the rainbow, guys. Another way of saying that rainbow is these gemstones. They're saying they're giving him this jeweled sword, the power to rule, and it's being bought back or redeemed from the church is buying it back. So they're saying the church, the sword of the Spirit, or I should say the sword of the church is above the sword of the state, is giving him power on loan because Prince Charles is the head of the Church of England. But they're saying the Vatican, the Knights of Malta, is giving him that power on loan from the Catholic Church, from the Pope, and they're buying it back for 100 shillings. That's what the jeweled sword represents. And again, he sat on the stone of destiny, the stone of Scone. That's this Jacob's pillow, and then they have Jacob's ladder and Masonic lore is the sword of destiny. Or the stone of destiny. It's the same thing. Every Masonic compass is a stone of destiny, and the stone of Scone are the same thing. Okay, like King Arthur's. I was thinking about this, guys. You've seen me. Look up the poem, The Coming of King Arthur. You see my other videos. I talked about the three, I don't have a good, actually I can pull it up real quick. The three offices of the priest and king. And it's those three middle rays, guys. It's the three middle colors of, let's see if I can find it. It's taking longer than I thought it would. But anyway, check this out. Vert coming in when King Arthur's doing their little rituals. Again, this is from the coming of King Arthur. It's flame color, so that's red or orange or yellow. Vert, green, and that's blue. So it's yellow, green, blue. Those three rays. And three rays. So again, that's the priest and king, the God King. We've talked about in my other video, so I'm not going to go over that again. But this whole concept of the stone of Scone, the stone of destiny, that's the 10 days of tribulation we talked about from that church, from the church. And that's the 10 tribes that's the 10 toes of the image of Daniel, guys. That's the Ephraim. That's the 10 tribes that went north. They're the apostasy tribes that persecute the real church, which is the spiritual Jerusalem. So we're not part of that, guys, right? We know that. Because I want to say is every society in the world have this, they have the smith or the metallurgical myth, and that would be the cain. Vulcan's another one, guys. That's why why do you think all of the, typically all of the, like quarries, stone quarries are called Vulcan? Because that Vulcan it's the metallurgical. It's taking like you could say the way it goes is this stone came out of heaven like this meteor and landed in Cain. That's when Cain was really an angel, right? Probably Lucifer himself. Showed Cain how to make bronze and iron from the said stone. So it's the stone of destiny coming down. That's the same thing as the Kabbalah that came from Saturn. The Muslims say, and again, that's another black cube cult, Saturn. But the stone comes down. Cain gets the metals, bronze and iron, and he forges out of the stone of Scone, out of the stone of destiny, he forges the spear of destiny, which is Excalibur, which is King Arthur's sword, which is also the spear that pierced the Messiah's side, Yeshua's side. So that is history of the stone of Scone in a brief biblical view. And then that is Cain. The lineage of Cain has a spear or sword of destiny that is also a compass, and that came from the stone of Scone. Hopefully that clears it up.